Alright, today we're going to be taking a first look at the new update. Before we get into that, I got to tell you about this video's sponsor, BlueStacks X. This is Android cloud gaming. You can play mobile games directly in your web browser on any internet device. They are also doing a $250 giveaway. Check my Twitter for more information of how to enter. So as usual, we're going to start with the patch notes for today's update. Although, unlike most other videos, this patch notes section is probably the most important part of this data mine video. There are so many quality of life updates that are coming and new content and new ways that everything's working that we really want to focus in on what is coming. Most of these updates are actually mentioned in the 4th Japanese anniversary event recap right here if you haven't watched it. And now we're getting a lot more of the details as they're actually implemented. I will also be live streaming later today once the servers come online. That way we can take a live look at this stuff in game too. So let's get started because we got a lot of stuff to cover. First up, we have the level cap increasing to 125 from level 100. Now, how is this going to work? We have more details about that. We are going to be getting a new item called the cognitive array. This item works kind of like a cognitive chip. It's used to awaken your ship so they can get the next 5 levels, but it's going to be used for ships that are 120 and above rather than from 100 to 120. There are going to be a couple different ways that you can obtain these new cognitive arrays. You can obtain these from the new daily missions, more on that later. They will also be able to be exchanged in the core data shop. So the core data shop will be updated during this update to include the cognitive arrays, as well as the Italian triple 381mm gun is going to be added to the core data shop. In addition, you can get cognitive arrays from Fleet Tech. This talks about how we're going to get new rewards because of Fleet Tech. Fleet Tech now, once you get certain levels of that Fleet Tech / faction tech, you're going to actually get items. One of those items that you can get in exchange for getting higher levels of it is cognitive arrays. We're also getting a new limited time event as part of these patch notes. These limited events are going to have cognitive arrays in them to get us started. I imagine more events in the future will have these cognitive arrays as rewards. Also, not implemented in this update, but they did say in the future certain map clears are going to be able to drop these as well. As a tip, the game said these are going to be pretty rare, so it might take a while to get all your ships from 120 to 125. Speaking of getting up to level 125, that brings me to the next point, and that is the experience curve. Currently, getting from level 100 to 120 has an exponential experience curve that makes life a little difficult. To put in perspective, getting from level 1 to level 110 takes the same amount of experience as getting from level 110 to level 120. If we were to keep that up, going to level 125, it would have been insane. So we are getting a change to how the experience curve works from level 100 beyond. This is something that when at the beginning of the summer, me and Zoe talked about what we want from Azur Lane going forward, we needed this experience curve to be edited. That's exactly what they did here. They are going to be lowering that exponential, which means that ships that have experience at like 115 are actually going to be a higher level after this update. This means once the servers come live, ships that you have will jump their levels, at least ones over level 100. So you might come back to having some higher level ships after this update. So that's cool. What this does mean is that once we are going from 120 to 125, the experience grind is going to be significantly less than what it would have been otherwise. If you have a ship currently at level 120, you're going to be pretty close to getting to 125 already after this new experience curve is implemented. On top of that, when we're talking about curves, let's talk about the stats curve. This one doesn't affect any maxed out ships. However, ships between levels 2 and 119 are going to to have their stats changed. So that means hell for the Wikipedia team. Props to them, by the way, but they're going to have to not only add to every single ship the level 125 stats, but they're also going to have to change the level 100 stats because that is going to be changed based on this stats curve. What I mean by this stats curve change is that the stats of a ship at a certain level before the update are going to be different than after the update. The end result being the 120, is going to be the same. So you don't have to worry about maxed out ships, but we're only concerned about ships as they're leveling up. This stats curve is actually going to be raised, meaning your ships will gain stats quicker than they would have otherwise leveling. This actually means it's going to be a lot easier for newer players to get ships up and clear content that's, not for max end. This is going to make mid-game clearing very easy. And on top of that, that means that grinding your ships up once you get them off a new event will probably be a little bit easier as well. You're probably going to be able to use them in the current event a lot faster. So that stats curve, just keep in mind, it's not going to affect anything in the max meta, but it is going to affect a lot of newer and mid-tier players. Okay, we mentioned earlier there are going to be new daily missions. These daily raids are going to be similar to the old ones. They're just going to be harder. This is keeping up with the power creep. Those daily missions were pretty old. Now that we have these new, more powerful ships, we are going to have more of a challenge here. I like that. These are going to drop the new cognitive arrays that we mentioned that are going to be used for awakening your level 120 ships. They're also going to drop tier 4 gear parts, tier 4 skill books, gear lab materials, so that's new, and tier 1 experience data packs. More on that later. There's so many things that all play off each other. A lot of new stuff. Continuing on with the quality of life updates for level grinding, we have a complete rework of how the lecture hall works. You guys may have noticed that yesterday they were starting to prevent people from putting your ship girls in the lecture hall in lieu of this update coming, and this is going to be completely redesigned. And I really like the way that they did this. So no longer are you going to have to assign students to the classroom. You're not going to have to figure out which days, which type of ships can go. You're not going to have to remember to do that. You're not going to have to worry about the morale going down of those ships. You're not going to have to worry about whether they're in the dorm or not. You're not going to have to worry about whether or not which one, the dorm or the lecture hall, is going to give you the better experience, which changes based on a bunch of different formulas. And really it just meant that a lot of people just didn't use the lecture hall because it was complicated, and you could just throw them in the dorm, even though it's not always better. I made this whole video about leveling that talked about the lecture hall here, and a lot of people in the comments still were asking all about it. That video's outdated now, but in a good way, for the better. Instead of having specific ships be in the lecture hall is now going to generate experience pack data. That was one of the items that I was talking that drops from the new daily missions. You're going to be able to get that from the daily missions as well as the lecture hall. The amount of data that drops is going to be based on the proficiency of the characters gained in the sortie. So when you go and you use your ships in the sortie, they're going to collect experience just like the old lecture hall. Then your lecture hall level is going to decide your proficiency, and it's going to turn into some X amount of experience. By the way, that reminds me, the lecture hall's level cap is going to increase from 10 to 12. This means that the efficiency of the lecture hall is going to be higher. That's great because that means it's going to produce more experience, really helping once again with that level grind. On top of that, the canteen, the one that gives you the oil, and the merchant that gives you the coins, those are going to now have new level caps. So we can create more coins and we can store more coins. Very good for saving up for events. So what do you do with these experience data packs? Well, it's pretty simple. You can use them to increase the experience of any ship in your dock. Basically, you can store up a bunch of these and then use them. Use them on a ship that you just got from the newest event, and then now it's going to be much easier to take that already leveled ship that you got from storing these experience packs to take it into the event, because now it's going to have higher stats because of the new stats curve. This means that you're going to be able to pull like a ship on day one and start using it in the event right away, which will really help in getting those grinds up. The only thing is the experience data packs are going to have an account storage cap, meaning you can't keep more than a certain amount. This means if you hit into that cap, you won't generate any more experience data packs and you're going to have to use them. Kind of how coins and gold work currently. The lecture hall will also have its own cap. However, I really like this redesign of the lecture hall. It's almost exactly word for word what I recommended back with my interview with Zoe on Twitch back at the beginning of the summer. So I'm really excited about this. This should make it much, much easier to grind up ships and is a lot less confusing, which I think will mean that people are going to use this a lot more than the old version of the lecture hall. We talked about fleet tech. We're going to be getting coins, cognitive chips, and cognitive arrays as factional rewards for getting certain levels. As somebody like level 9 USS, Great, free resources. Still going, we haven't even got to the new events yet. We are getting Yuudachi's retrofit item event. We'll talk about how good Yuudachi is later in this video, but that's exciting to get the new UR. It's going to be a daily login. You're going to get some barbecued meat. You log in 7 days over the next 2 weeks, and you do get the item. You do need this item to retrofit her, so make sure you are logging in over the next couple 7 days, because you don't want to miss this one. It's going to work pretty much the same as how Warspite in San Diego worked. I already mentioned that we're getting a cognitive array support plan event, which will help some of us get to level 125 quicker, just to kind of ease us into this new item that they're dropping. The 3 O skins that were mentioned in the anniversary, Taiho, York, and Noshiru, are all going to be coming. Shimakaze is getting a new memory. We're getting a new furniture for the October login reward. In the shop, we're getting a promise crate, which is great. Our wallet, after spending all of those gems on skins, we're now going to have to get the ring pack if you want to get more rings. Great purchase deal if you want it, so that's going to be around. And speaking of the shop, we have the new Fair Winds Cruise Pass. This is what is the official title for the season battle pass that they talked about during the live stream that everyone was all up in arms and concerned about. We actually know what it's gonna be now. So that brings us to cruise missions. This item that you can purchase is related directly to cruise missions. This is a new type of game content. These are campaign seasons. They last for 2 months, so they're a long time. They are specifically designed for you not to complete them quickly or in a day or anything. They are going to be grand campaigns over 2 months that you're going to have to take slowly over time. Cruise mission rewards are going to have 2 different types. Regular rewards for the free-to-play players and the Fair Winds rewards for those who pay $10 for the season. The people who pay for the Fair Winds rewards will get all the same rewards as the free players plus the bonus rewards. Some of the rewards that will exist during the regular rewards are going to be cubes. They're also going to bring Fusou META. So meta ships are now not only going to be from Operation Siren, we're going to get new meta ships every season for the new cruise missions. This is going to help us get more meta ships into the game faster for those of you who want your waifu to be metamorphosized. So the season pass will not lock any new ships behind any paywall. You will have full access to Fusou META if you are not paying. However, what do you get when you pay the $10 for this pass? Well, the first things first is it's going to grant you an extra 1,500 progress points immediately. So you're going to get a little head start on all the free-to-play players to finish it quicker. On top of that, you're going to get extra rewards. What are some of these extra rewards? Well, they're going to be gems. You're going to get gems as you play. And then at the end of the season, if you complete everything, you're going to get a new skin. For this season, it's going to be this Yorktown skin. There are going to be other rewards along the way that you're going to get over free-to-play players. These are basically just resources. This deal looks like it's going to be an enhanced version of the trade license. For those whales who want to buy both, you're going to get a lot of resource head start on people. And did you think that was it? Nope, we still got more to cover. Hard mode for Chapter 12 is now going to be available, so I mean, we know what Chapter 12 looks like. Now it's just going to be harder, plain hell. World 14 is not coming in this update, but it is coming soon. And then we also have some bug fixes. One of the big system optimizations they have is the auto search mode in Operation Siren has been improved. Hidden resource nodes are now going to be detected and collected. You're no longer going to miss those when you turn on auto. This is something that needed to happen. It was just kind of annoying. Glad to see it. And still, 9 months since we've implemented Operation Siren, we are still getting improvements and fixes from the devs on Operation Siren. I'm happy to see that they just didn't leave this game mode to die. They're still improving it. Okay, that is everything from the patch notes. We had a lot to cover today. I'm really excited to log into this game later today and check all this new stuff out. I think this is going to really help a lot of players not get burned out, as well as new players catch back up, which is great for longevity of this game. So this is exciting for me. Now, let's get into the ships. We got Fusou META and Yuudachi Retrofit are the 2 new ships that we are going to be talking about today. All right, let's start by taking a look at the brand new ship, Fusou META. This is the first battleship meta ship that we have. So stat-wise, she actually looks very similar to pre-retrofit Fusou. That's actually not really a good thing. Pre-retrofit Fusou's not that great. She does have post-retrofit Fusou health, But in terms of the efficiencies and the stats and the way that she works, because she's a battleship, she's looking like pre-retrofit, pure battleship Fusou, stat-wise at least. Let's move down to the skills. It's a meta ship, so I'm assuming there's going to be quite a bit of barrages. Skill number 1, on main gun firing, fire a special barrage. So we need to put a barrage gun in her probably, because it triggers based on how often she fires her main salvo. This special barrage is called Blaze. Interesting. So yeah, enemies hit are debuffed with the Curse of Cinder for 10 seconds. They take 41 ignite damage every second. So this is what the barrage looks like. It looks kind of cool. Fills up pretty nicely. Kind of reminds me of like a black version of Sugura's. I don't know. Looks decent. Basically, this is just inflicting burn, a special type of burn. So it's going to like stack differently. They did give it a special name. So I don't know if that has something to do with like other skills or whatnot. But this skill on its own is just a decent, and I mean decent, barrage for a barrage battleship. Moving on to skill number 2. For the first 3 battles of the fleet with this ship in it within a sortie, every 20 seconds in the battle, fire a special barrage. For the 4th and 5th battles of the other fleet within the same sortie as this ship, if this ship is alive, fire a cross-fleet support barrage every 20 seconds. So for the first 3 fights in a sortie that she is in with her fleet, she's going to fire a barrage. And then for the 4th and 5th fights of the other fleet that she's, sortied with, we'll have the cross-fleet barrage. The barrage is the same, and holy crap, does this just look like they ripped it, stole it from Shinano, and yeah. Okay, this is just Shinano barrage. All right, whatever. I mean, it's a cross-fleet barrage, so if you don't have Shinano, yeah, you got one now. You literally got the same barrage, pretty much. I mean, a little bit different patterning, but yeah, looks about the same. Let's move on to skill number 3. Self anti-air is increased by 15%. Self reload is increased by 10%. Okay, just passive stat boosts. When Curse of Cinders expires okay, so this is why we named it a special type of debuff, because it relates to skill number 3. Okay. When Curse of Cinders expires on enemies, so when it's done taking the ignite damage, they take an extra instant of special ignite damage. The damage scales with firepower. I mean, why couldn't they just add this as part of skill number 1? I mean, I guess we can, this skill's not over, but like this looks like you could just add this to skill number 1 and not even give it a special name to have it like cross-reference the 2 skills. Anyway, moving on to the final part of skill number 3. In a battle, whenever an enemy is debuffed with Curse of Cinders is defeated, self firepower is increased by 4%, and that stacks 3 times to a max of 12%. So basically, every time that you defeat a enemy that got hit by the barrage from skill number 1, you're going to get a firepower boost up to 12%, stacks for the whole battle. Also, if you max stack this, so that means you kill 3 enemies that have been hit by the barrage, self-damage dealt increases by 5%, and that buff also lasts until the end of the battle. Honestly, this 3rd skill could have just been put into a really long skill number 1, like they didn't need to give it a special name and, switch it over, whatever. It just kind of makes the skill number 1 barrage a little better. Like I said, we got that passive skill buff at the beginning of this skill. Let's look at number 4. When fighting a human-owned siren or a boss fleet, Vanguard ships take 8% less damage. Oh, that's like, part of the Operation Siren sort of meta ship thing that's going on. This is pretty standard. Honestly, this is just kind of like a barrage battleship. Not even a strong one at that. Because it has the Fusou base stats, and then it's just gotten a ton of barrages on top of it. Cross-fleet buffs are nice, so like I said, you can use the cross-fleet buff, but there are certainly better options for cross-fleet buffs, like Shinano and, such. It's like an alternative. This is a newbie ship. Let's move on to Yuudachi. I'm really excited about this one. I really like Yuudachi. I didn't expect her to get a retrofit just this soon, especially with a URDD event right before this. So I'm really excited to see what this has in store for her. Let's get into it. Stat-wise, so she's going to get a little bit of buffs because this is just a retrofit. We got firepower up 40. Torpedo is going to be up 40. We got some extra HP. Still don't break the 2,000 health bar, though. Accuracy got a... Oh, my gosh. Evasion just, like... Holy crap, she went from decent evasion to the highest evasion stat in the game, I believe. Yeah, that's crazy. Very, very high evasion stat now. That's a lot of extra tanking. Okay, cool. Torpedo efficiencies went up by 10%. DD gun went up by 15%. AA gun didn't do anything. So we got a nice, good stat boost here. That's pretty typical, though, for the other 2 SR ships that transitioned into UR ships. But nice to see. She got a very nice stat boost. Shimakaze is still still going to have the highest torpedo stat and is also going to have a higher torpedo efficiency than Yuudachi. So, pure stats alone, Shimikaze is going to hit harder. We'll see if Yuudachi has any skills that make up for that. We obviously know that Nightmare of Solomon exists. Also, side note, when we look at some of the footage of her being played post-retrofit, she looks like she has a main gun +1. In the data, she gets this main gun +1 and loses the max torpedo capacity. So that means she can't store an extra set of torpedoes. This is fine. She keeps her preloaded torpedo, and if you're playing on auto, she'll always automatically fire the torpedo as soon as she gets it, so the fact that she can't store an extra one won't really matter. It could make some difference if you're playing some manual game. The main gun +1, though, is kind of nice. With the extra 40 firepower, now we're starting to look, in Suzutsuki range. But let's see what the skills are going to bring with us. So skill number 1 is Nightmare of Solomon, but this is an enhanced version, so let's see what's different. Self-firepower torpedo reload evasion stat is increased by 20%. That's really different. It used to be 40%. It went down? I guess it's guaranteed. It's 100% uptime. It's guaranteed. It's not a proc. Before it was a proc and you would play a barrage gun on her to try and get it to proc as much as possible. Now, post retrofit, it looks like it's going to be half as strong, but it's going to be up all the time, and you don't have to play a barrage gun on her anymore. And that's actually kind of nice because now you can use a more damaging gun for her, since now she's kind of like a firepower boat, given that she has that main gun +1. I'm not sure how I feel about this. Honestly, the fact that she has a main gun +1, part of me wants the 40% boost and just wants to play off a really fast gun. I don't know. This is interesting. We actually got a lower stat increase here, but it is more consistent, definitely. Also, more parts of this skill, so let's finish reading those. This ship deals 15% more damage versus ignited enemies. Okay, well, that means she's gonna put people on fire, which means you need to put HE ammo on her probably, which will help with that main gun +1, so that will really help this skill get off more. So that makes actually more sense. 15% extra damage is great. She's gonna be paired nicely with the French ships. Richelieu might be her actual friend here. Continuing on, for the first 30 seconds of the battle, all Vanguard ships in the fleet, okay, so this is a total buff, not just her, have 10% crit rate increase and 25% crit damage increase. Wow, that is a huge torpedo buff. Really trying to put a competition here with Shimikaze here with that buff, because not only is she buffing herself, but she's buffing everyone else. Shimikaze really just buffs herself for the most part, not including her cross fleet buff. I'm mostly referring to her in fleet buff, because you're focusing on the boss fleet. You want to buff your other torpedo ships in the same fleet, not necessarily the other mob fleet. But yeah, Shimikaze does technically buff the cross fleet. This one buffs the whole fleet she's in, though. I like this skill. It does make her more consistent, although it does feel weird to kind of change up her whole strategy. We're not going to be using those fast firing guns anymore as much to try and proc Nightmare of Solomon. This used to be her only skill, so her whole MO was basically fire off the fastest gun ever so that you can get this skill to proc. Now this skill just happens automatically. Weird. Okay, moving on to skill number 2. She gets a brand new skill. Self-evasion rate. Oh my gosh. Self-evasion rate is boosted by 5%. I know it's only 5%, but this stacks on top of the fact that she has the new highest evasion stat too. What the heck just happened to her survivability? She's now one of the most tanky destroyers there are. She went from having a survivability problem to getting more HP to getting a ton more evasion and having an evasion rate skill. Not to mention, by the way, her skill number 1 boosts permanently 20% her evasion. So she takes the highest evasion stat, boosts it by 20%, and then stacks on top a 5% evasion rate to get rid of those diminishing returns that extra evasion would have given. I think she's probably going to be one of the most tanky destroyers there is. I don't know. Yukikaze still has that skill that turns damage to 1, but Yuudachi just got a whole lot tankier. She just became a huge evasion tank here, and we're not even done. Oh. Self-shelling damage taken reduced by 15%. Okay, so not only are we okay, she's going to get a lot of extra evasion, she's going to buff that evasion, and it's going to be a permanent buff rather than having to proc it, and we're going to stack on the evasion rate. Let's just stack on a damage taken reduction as well. Of course, it's only limited to shelling. It doesn't apply to aviation, which is probably something that you would like if you're going to be using her in the newest World 14. But I'm not going to complain about reduction of damage and shelling she is so tanky now, man. Every 20 seconds after the battle starts, fire a special barrage. Enemies hit with this barrage are special ignited for 15 seconds. That's a long ignite time. This is what the barrage looks like. A lot of burn. We're throwing in torpedoes in there as well. Very powerful. Skill number 2 looks great. Skill number 3 is her all-out assault, but there's actually going to be a change here once you make her modernization. So one of the things that happens is it gets upgraded. This new all-out assault is better. It's torpedoes in her all-out assault. So just tons of extra torpedoes coming out all over the place. So I like that. The other thing it does is it increases the number of shots she needs to fire in order to proc it. This is actually pretty standard. This is what happens when you get the main gun +1, like San Diego got a main gun +1 post retrofit, and they increased the all-out assaults. This is standard. It would have been nice and kind of broken if she would have kept it at 10 shots, but they went up to 16, so not a problem here. The actual all-out assault is improved from before. That's exciting. Fusou META kind of seems like a dud to me. She's kind of in that collection tier. Of course, you kind of want to get her, and you can make those like 6 meta ship fleets, so many barrages, which could be fun for mobbing. Having a battleship might be nice, especially since most of them need to be used in the mob fleet, and having a triple carrier mob fleet doesn't sound that great. So, you know, she could be kind of fun in some of those meta comps, but Yuudachi, man. Yuudachi is really exciting and really surprising. She is going to be one of the tankiest ships. She's going to be pretty good in PvP too, because that torp crit and that torp damage in the first 30 seconds, you're going to be firing 2 sets of torpedoes, and most of the vanguards are going to be dead after that point. So yeah, this is a very powerful ship. Shimikaze is still probably the torp queen, like in terms of doing the most torpedo damage. So if you're going to be doing like some fast speed running clears that you want to use your vanguard to just completely wreck people with torpedoes, then you're still going to probably want to use Shimikaze. But in terms of like PvP and things like that, or where survivability matters in, you know, really high level maps, I think Yuudachi might have a chance here. She's also got that main gun +1, which is going to really help take the torpedo boats out and get across all those little mini enemies so the boss appears. Her and Shimikaze running together in like the cross fleets, like, you know, Shimikazes can buff the Yuudachi as well. Yeah, Yuudachi is really exciting. I'm going to retrofit her immediately as soon as I can, and probably going to get her to level 125 quickly. We'll have to see how quickly I can actually get some of those cognitive arrays, but Yuudachi's definitely on the list to getting to 125 for me. All right, guys, thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. Like it if you did. Subscribe if you want more Azur Lane content. I will be live streaming this update when it comes live later. There is a landing page that this premiere should take you to, so you can set a reminder for when we're going live there. I'll see you guys there to grind, and peace out.